right, let's take a look at our materials. So before I get started, you should know that I was doing tie-dye last night, and I have dye on my hands as well as a lovely band-aid. So you'll be seeing those throughout the video. Just know that that's what it is. And we'll get started. Okay, so I have my mermaid beads. You have 6 in your kit. I have my lilac macrame cord that we'll be using. It is pre-cut for you, so you don't have to worry about that or measuring or anything. I also have a pair of scissors, and you want to make sure that your scissors are really sharp. That way you'll get a nice clean cut on the end of your project, and especially to do this this mermaid tail shape at the very end, you'll want your scissors to be really precise. And I've laid my tail a little crooked, but you can see why you want it precise so you can get that nice mermaid finish. We're also going to use clear Elmer's glue to glue our beads on at the very end. You can also use E6000 glue if you're feeling like your beads might fall off. Either way, both work, but your macrame cord is too thick to string them through, so we're gonna put them on as an afterthought later, so just to kind of bling up the mermaid tail. You also have your keychain ring. We're going to be attaching our mermaid tail to this bigger ring, so you'll be able to clip it on your keychain or your beach bag with the clip here. And finally, you will need a piece of paper, and I'm going to use a marker to show you what this looks like, but this is just going to help us with a visual representation of how we're going to tie the knots for this project. And it just helped me get through it because I'm left-handed, and so I needed to visually see how I'm going to tie the knots on the right side of the project and on the left side of the project. So with that, you'll also want to have something like a clipboard or somebody to hold this project for you. I found that a clipboard is very nice, and you'll see why in just a minute. I'll attach my mermaid tail project here. That way I can take it with me, or it doesn't take up the table space, so if I need to come back to my project later, it's a really good way to do that. All right, so I'm gonna move all of our materials out of the way, except for our paper and our marker. So there's my mermaid tail up there. And for this project, we're going to be using something called a double hitch knot. And if this video is not good enough to follow along with, feel free to look on YouTube. That is where I found my picture or my video on how to do this. And you can actually slow down YouTube videos, which is great. So you can slow down this video and watch me tie the knots, or you can slow down another YouTube video. You'll look at the bottom of this screen. There's a like a settings option in the video, and you can choose your playback speed. So you can take it all the way back to, I think, 25% speed playback if you want to go over those knots. But as soon as you get it, you'll be whizzing through this project, so don't even worry about it. And a lot of you have probably already done macrame, so this is a refresher for you. All right, so our double hitch knot is essentially going to be the number 4, right, for our left side, and a backwards number 4 for our right side. And this looks really easy to follow, but again, I need that visual of knowing what I'm doing with my knots. So that's why I like to draw it out, and that's all I need to do on there. And I'm going to set that over as my reminder card and get my cord out. So I've got my cord, and you should have 3 long pieces of cord, and we are going to double those. We're going to fold them over in just a minute, but go ahead and make sure that you have your 3, and you'll want to go ahead and have your clip as well. So you'll take your first string, and you're going to tie these on all separately, and we're going to loop it through to get it onto our hook there. This is just like a slip knot to get it over. And if it's not completely even at the bottom, that's okay, because remember, it's going to be a mermaid tail at the bottom. So, all right, you're going to do that with your other 2 cords. Double them in half, and then flip it through your loop. Okay. 1, 2, and I've got to do my third one, but you can see how they're coming out. Okay, cool. And my last one. You do have a shorter piece of cord in your kit. You'll use that later for when we're tying off the bottom of our tail right here. So don't worry about it right now, just set it over to the side. All right, this is where I'm going to use my clipboard. And I'm gonna put my key ring up into my clipboard just like that. And then now my project is being held, which is great. I'm going to push back my camera and then we'll get started with our double hitch knots. Let's take a look at our knots. So I'm going to just divide out your macrame cord so you can see which order your knots are going to go in. You're going to start with the farthest piece of cord to your left, and you're going to make it look like this number 4. So we're going to take the cord next to it, and that's going to be the stem of our 4. I'm going to take the furthest string and put it across so you can see I've got the number 4 here. Okay. You're going to flip the bottom through and slide it up to the top. Okay. We're going to do this one more time here. Same thing, you're going to use your outside cord, make it into a number 4, so you can see my 4 shape, flip over the bottom, and slide it up to top. So you should have 2 knots on that first cord. Make sure they're in the right order. Okay. You're going to move to your next cord. Use your base cord here. Make your number 4. Slide it up. And you're going to do the same thing again. Alright, now I'm going to come over and do the right side. So essentially you're going to have this zigzag pattern of diagonals, right? So you've got diagonal, 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 and they just kind of stack on top of each other, and that's what makes your mermaid pattern. Okay, so same thing on the outside. You're going to take your furthest cord. You're going to make the number 4, but it's backwards, so refer to your sheet here. This part was really confusing for me, so bring your bottom knot through and slide it up. Same thing again. Let's see. Yeah. And slide it on up. Okay, so I've got 2 on that outside. Now I'm going to use my middle cord here. I'm going to do 2. So I've got my 4 shape, my backwards 4, and feed it through. And one more time. Okay, this next part you were going to do with your 2 middle pieces, and you were going to do this backwards 4. This is going to be your outside piece. So cross it over like the number 4. Flip that bottom cord up and roll it through. Okay, and you're going to do it again. Oops. Backwards 4. And flip it through. Okay, so you can see we're already starting to get that zigzag pattern. You're going to keep going until you get the length that you want. On my example, I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 rows. And then I'll meet you in just a minute and we'll go over how to finish off your project and do the bottom. Okay? All right, so I have a little bit of a mermaid tail here, and I'm going to show you how to finish up this project. So you're going to take your furthest cord on your left-hand side and go ahead and do 2 of those double hitch knots. There's 1, 2. Next, I'm going to take both of these cords in my hand and I'm going to do a double hitch knot with this middle string. You'll see what I'm talking about. I'm going to do it twice. Perfect. I'm going to do the same thing on the outside here. I'm taking both now. Okay, so now I've got 4 sections here, and you should see that. I'm going to try to readjust this. It's easier to work with your design if you are holding your clipboard upright, or at least it is for me. Okay, so I'm going to keep going and keep wrapping. You're wrapping right at the base of your mermaid tail, and you still have that loop. Try not to get your other cords caught up in it. Okay, so you were just wrapping. And I know the camera's shaking, just bear with me. All right, you've got it wrapped a couple of times. You are going to take your remaining cord and feed it through. Feed it through your bottom, that loop that we talked about. Okay. And you're going to pull, kind of hold your knot in place. You're going to pull that top knot, and that is what's going to secure your mermaid's tail. Okay, so you should have 2 longer pieces that look like this. Okay. Next, you're going to trim the top piece here. This is why you need nice sharp scissors. And I'm going to use a pin and just push that extra tail back down so it doesn't have any fraying pieces. And push it back down into your piece there. Okay. Okay, looks like I've got my piece there. Let's move back over to the flat table. Okay, so we've got this. Next, we are going to trim up our bottom pieces, but don't trim them too short because we're going to use it to make our mermaid tail in just a minute. So I've got them trimmed down to a manageable size, and you can use your fingers. This is, or if you have like a very thin comb, it's easy to do with that too. You are actually going to fray the end of all of these pieces. And it may take you just a little bit to get all of those untied, but it won't be too difficult. But you're gonna go through and fray all of them. And you may wanna start by untwisting each piece first and separating them into smaller strands and then fraying them. It's up to you, but this is gonna give us our our fluffy mermaid tail. I guess mermaid tails aren't fluffy, but they're they kind of float in the water. They look kind of fluffy, so fray those out. Just keep combing through them with your fingers. I said, or if you have a small comb, that works really well too. If you have kids, Barbie doll brushes work great for this. Just keep fraying those pieces out. This is one of my favorite parts of the project. I also have a shaky camera here. It's whenever I shake the table. But this project is a lot easier to do on a clipboard because you can hold it up like I did just a minute ago to tie your knots, and especially that end piece when you're tying your last cord. It makes life a lot easier to be able to tilt it up. So we got about half of it frayed out, which is good. And we're getting there. We are getting there. The idea is to make it fluffy like a tassel. Try to get all of your fluffing done before you cut your mermaid tail, because it will shift as you carry it as a keychain, but this cut that we're about to make is very important because it's going to give you that the pointed edges of the fins. Close, to still have some pieces in here that are attached. Okay, so we're relatively fluffed out, which is good. Now's an opportunity, or anytime really, to shape out your mermaid tail. So if you need to, you know, pull and tug on it to make it more of a rectangle shape, it's up to you. This next part, you're gonna wanna use really sharp scissors for a precise cut. And it's just like you're cutting a V shape. So I would recommend cutting longer first, and then you can always trim and make it shorter, but you can't go back and make it longer, unfortunately. So be generous when you're cutting. Okay. And that looks about right. You can see what I mean, that it'll fluff on its own, so you can decide where you want to trim it. I have seen people, when they get happy with their shape, they take the end of their mermaid tail and they spritz it with like a freeze hairspray. So you can do that too, and that'll make it a little stiffer. And I think I want my tail to kind of curve up just a little bit. So you can see it's a lot easier to make those changes after after you've cut some off. You can kind of see more what you're doing. I'm going to trim it up. And I think I'm happy there. Just remember, it will shift as you're carrying it, so if it's not perfect, that's okay. And then finally, you're going to add your iridescent beads. And like I said, you can use E6000 glue, you can use this clear Elmer's glue. I think E6000 is going to hold up longer. And you can also thread those beads onto your frayed ends as well. So you don't have to glue them on top, but it helps hide if you have any imperfections. Like, let's see, my knot at the top here is loose, one of the first knots that I did. So I can glue a bead right on top of that, and then we're good to go. But when you finish this craft, if you will send me an email with a picture of it, I would love to see your completed work. My email is listed at the bottom of this video. I hope you have fun with this craft.